Miss Pratt, a first-grade teacher, is feeling frustrated with her literacy curriculum. Over the years, she's had great success in teaching children how to read, but she sometimes feels like her program, which relies heavily on phonics, fails to capture the joy and meaning of reading. This year, she's determined to investigate ways to diversify her instruction. While doing research, Miss Pratt learns about the whole language approach to reading instruction, also called the top-down approach. Whole language is a method of teaching reading that relies on the meaning of stories and texts. In whole language, meaning takes priority over individual words. At first, Miss Pratt is confused. She understands that comprehension, or understanding of reading, is important, but she also knows the importance of children learning sight words and understanding how to decode. As she researches further, though, Miss Pratt comes to understand that a whole language approach doesn't exclude the teaching of phonics. Instead, it looks at language as a system that sees phonics as one part of a bigger picture, emphasizing real and quality literature rather than phonetic texts that are selected because of the word patterns they teach. Miss Pratt is excited to figure out more about whole language and begins to pinpoint some aspects of the philosophy that she already incorporates into her instruction. For example, the read-alouds Miss Pratt does every afternoon help her students learn about the relationship between language, reading, and meaning. When Miss Pratt's students write independently, they're also focusing on making meaning and expressing themselves, in line with the whole language method. However, she wants to teach a whole lesson using the approach. At the beginning of her first whole language reading lesson, Miss Pratt reads aloud a high-quality picture book, stopping to discuss the story with students and talk about the different meaning-oriented strategies the writer used. This asks students to engage with the richness of language. Then, students work independently to read or look at books that are meaningful to them. Miss Pratt circulates to ensure that students are reading books that are matched to their needs and interests. After circulating, Miss Pratt pulls small groups for guided reading, or small group strategy instruction, at an appropriate level. At the end of the lesson, Miss Pratt pulls the students back together to share some things they learned or read about. Important aspects of a whole language lesson are that it focuses on real literature, sees reading as primarily oriented toward meaning, and lets students work at their own level and from their own interests. Miss Pratt comes to believe that the whole language, or top-down method, is advantageous in a number of ways. Some of the advantages she sees are authenticity. In whole language, children are engaging with the same sorts of reading materials they'll be encountering for the rest of their lives. Enjoyment. When the focus is on meaning, children enjoy reading and writing more. They are less bogged down by the nuts and bolts, and they can lose themselves in stories. Second language learning. For students who are learning English as a second language, a whole language approach incorporates more meaning-imbued aspects of language more broadly. Differentiation. Because students in one class might be at many different reading levels, whole language can bring them together by focusing on stories and ideas they can all share. Meanwhile, they can work on strategies and decoding on individual levels, but always be part of a dynamic literate community. Miss Pratt can also see that there are some ways the whole language approach, when used in isolation, might fall short. Some of the disadvantages she sees are privilege. Children who come from literate homes are exposed to vocabulary and reading strategies from an early age. A whole language approach that doesn't explicitly teach vocabulary and decoding might exacerbate gaps between advantaged and disadvantaged children. Spelling and mechanics. If used in isolation, whole language might never teach children how to spell conventionally. Similarly, children might suffer from a lack of explicit direct instruction in phonics and decoding. Miss Pratt concludes that whole language is a pretty special and important approach to reading instruction. It helps children understand that reading is about meaning and that they can really enjoy the process of learning to read and write. It introduces children to good literature and helps set them on a path toward being lifelong readers and writers. At the same time, whole language cannot be used in isolation. Teachers should supplement whole language lessons with explicit, direct instruction in phonics and spelling to ensure that they're meeting as many students' needs as possible.